Hi everyone. Let us wait for 2 minutes more. Just 1 minute more we will wait. Okay. In the meantime, who all have joined and we're also like attending the session series. Can I know like if you have done the assignment? If you are done with your assignment, just let me know. Yes or no. Any response? What is your plan? Prashant, I see you mostly appearing the class. So did you get a chance to do that? Shrikant also I see many times. Shrikant, Uday, Pratiksha, you also attend the session. Amresh, is it your first session?
No, ma'am, it's my third session. Yesterday I was
Okay.
absent.
Okay, so be attentive to the class. Okay, always try to prefer to attend the class in live mode instead of going through in the recorded mode. Recorded mode is not that beneficial. Means whenever you get some query, right, you can instantly check with the trainer. Means that is actually how one should attend the session. If at all like some unavoidable issue is happening and you are not able to attend the class, definitely you can go through the recorded session. But always try your uh, maximum limit to attend the live session.
Okay, ma'am.
Uh, okay. What about you, Prashant? I really wanted to uh, hear from you at least like, yes, I'm done with the assignment.
No, ma'am. I just gone through that code.
Okay, you have gone through the code, but also doing the coding on your own, that also like matters, right? Definitely, since it is AI time, you don't need to write the code many times, okay? But if you don't have coding knowledge, right? If you are not like logical, you are not able to conclude or something like that. If you don't know the syntax, sometime you cannot just rely on AI like that. Whenever the person who has coded, who is a real developer, they can only interact with the AI, they can write the correct prompt. Okay, so that's why I always emphasize on coding. Means you should, whenever you are learning something, right, try to code on your own. Okay, so I hope at least in this week you people will go through all the recordings if you have missed any, and also the code which I have shared today. Also I'll share one more version since I'm going to cover two important topics, so I'll just share the latest version of my workspace, and I uh, want you all to go through it and do your own coding for the assignment which I have given. Okay, let me share my screen quickly. Yesterday we have done all the like API, right? Yesterday only, I think, yeah, all the API from the gate mapping to till the delete mapping, all the mapping we did. Okay, and after to that we realized few problem and then we tried to address that. Okay, what actually the problem was. Okay, let me do one thing. Like in the, I just close all the API. In my REST controller, I have a API like this, right? Get one user data. This is my API, which is giving me only one user data. So if I will call that, I'm trying to retrieve the user ID 3 information, right? So this ID I have appended here, and I have got this information that user ID 3 name is Vishal and birthday is this much. Okay. So whenever we are trying to get the one user information, we are using this get ID. But what if I am just sending something at my database, how many users are there? If I try to find out all the users, then which API I should use?
Get.
Get user without yes, get, correct. So we will
Get
just
get but without filter.
without any
Uh,
filter, correct,
all
correct. So what we will do, just we will not send any ID, we'll just no ID appended to this user path, no path variable, just click send. Okay, internally it is taking this only. Only the API it is calling. HTTP, okay, nothing is calling. I need to call get API HTTP user slash users, not no slash, no slash. So it is giving me all the user information. So at present, how many users are there in my database? I have 4 users. And the moment if I try to get one user information, one or two, just I'll append this and I'll get all the, I will get the data for that user, the ID which was sent. Okay, and if I will not send any path variable, just slash user, I'll get all the users. So this is as per the two API which we have designed. Get API slash users and get API slash users slash ID. Now, the moment you see, if I have appended a slash, then what is I am getting? I am getting no static user. Some 404 not found I am getting, right? No static resource user. Something like this I am getting. Or if I will send some 4, some or 4 is there in the database. If I will send 6, then it is saying user is not present. Okay, I have already done the coding for this. Okay, here what I am getting here, just a minute. For the time being, what I will do, I just comment it. I'll just try to comment. I'll explain. Okay. Previously, this was not there. I'll just start my server. I'm having just the controller. Okay. I'm having a plain controller and just like this. You are done with the controller. This controller is working fine. Okay, server started. This controller is working fine as long as I give a valid ID. If I give 1, if I will give 2, will work, 3, it will work, 4 also it will work. Why? Because in my database there are 4 users, all the 4 data it is able to fetch. The moment if I give 5, what it is giving? It is giving me internal server error. Okay. So something it is giving, some exception it is throwing. Okay, user exception, some exception it is throwing. So what I am saying, what it is actually doing, it is throwing exception, and how I have handled it. So in real time, actually, you should handle the exception. My point is, your API can throw some exception. If I am sending some wrong data, right? 5 is the wrong data. It is throwing exception. Similarly, in patch mapping also, you see, in patch mapping, is a patch mapping. Here, suppose the birthday I am giving wrong. Okay. Birthday I have sent something, some just empty character. Then what it is giving? It is giving internal server some exception. Like this I am getting. But the front end, this is my front end application. Means at present, this is my front end application. Your front end, how they can know that some exception has happened and what has happened means we should give a exact information to the front end. Okay. So that is why we should handle the exception properly. And for handling the exception properly, okay, what I have done, I have created an error bin here. This error bin. Yesterday, those who were present in yesterday class, we have done this error bin, right? Just let me see, like how many few were there. I think few were there. Prashant, you were there, right, yesterday?
Correct, correct.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So yesterday we had this error bin, right? And just for you only, for when those who were there, and for them actually I'm telling this, we were not getting that, right? Error information we were not getting. The reason was the setter getter method was missing. Okay. So I added the getter setter method during the end of the class. Do you remember? I was trying to get the error message, but I was not able to get. Then
Yes, yes.
after ending the session, I just added the setter and means I was having till this. Okay. So okay, just I since there are many attendees today, so I'm just trying to repeat it. So what you need to do whenever any exception, the controller API, okay, the controller API, it can throw any exception at any time. Means if your wrong data is there from the front end, okay, or if you have done something like wrong, you may get null pointer exception, you may get array index out of exception, you may get string format exception, right? So you can get any exception. It happens, right? While coding, we may not be like able to handle all the exception, isn't it? So what we should do for handling the exception gracefully, what you should do always, create a error bin like this, okay? In the bin package, just always try to create all your means service class, controller class, repository class, everything under the under this package. Okay, REST web service application. This is the entry point I have told you. In whichever package it is present, right? Under this only you should create all this sub package. Why? Because your REST this REST web service, this is the main package, and all these are sub package. So main package is in the component scan mode. This main package, if you see, it is in the component scan mode. So it can scan everything. So whatever annotation I am giving here, it is able to all the sub packages can be scanned, and all the annotation the Spring Engine will take care of, and it can have the complete knowledge like, okay, this is my controller or this is my service class. These are my special bin. It will have that knowledge. Okay. So, and if this controller, if I will create here inside this Java, it will not means out of this if I will create, then this component scan, since it is here, it will not be considered. So your controller should be inside. Now my controller, user controller, or whatever controller I am creating, I am going to create here inside this controller package. My controller is having said some APIs, and these API is having the good means there is a potential of sending any kind of exception, throwing any kind of exception. Okay. So here for handling that, first step is step one, you create a error bin. And inside the error bin, you should have error message, error details, and time. Okay. Error message, error details, and time, and also create a constructor with input parameters like this, a parameterized constructor for all the instance variable. Just create like this. Then for these instance variable, you should have the getter and setter method. Okay, take the ID help, and you know how to take the ID help. Just from here, right, not from generate, and then just create a parameterized constructor for all the fields, click OK, or just create a getter setter with this generate help. Okay. Now, step 1, after making this error bin, okay, my user controller get method. See here, my user controller get method. If I send a path variable 5, it is sending me internal server error. So, why I am getting this error? Internal server error. Some error I am getting.
I think birthday we have
Actually,
not
I have
sending
this
anything,
user
right?
not found exception. That is why it is previously this user not found exception, custom exception, we have not made, right? So previous to this, it was just giving exception. Let me just do one thing. If I suppose just this class is also not there. Okay. Okay. So ID. Here we are throwing some exception, right? Let me just remove this. So many from so many places actually I have to do the changes. So let me revert everything. I'll just explain the concept. Cannot revert my whole workspace. Cannot reverse that. So what I did see here, yesterday when I was showing this to few of your means batchmate, what I was doing, like when I was clicking send button, it was giving me internal server and some blank exception it was giving, right? Then after to that, after debugging, we got to know that when I'm clicking the send button, this get user by ID method is getting called from the DAO service, and this line was throwing exception. Okay, so what we are doing, we are putting this line inside the try and catch block, and from here, since the user means whatever ID we have passed, right? This five is not getting a proper match here in this filter, and this was throwing exception. So what we were doing that since this user is not present, we were handling in the exception block like this. Like we created a custom class, user not found exception, which is extending runtime exception. And from here, from the DAO service, DAO service here, from the DAO service, this user not found exception, we were throwing, right? With a proper message saying that user is not present in the database. Okay, here like this. This is the custom exception. So step 1, you create a error bean. Then step 2, you create a custom exception package, and here user not found exception. Okay. Sometimes there can be like some other exception. Suppose some business exception also you can create. Suppose user is sending some wrong data. Okay. Sometimes it happens, right? User is sending some wrong data, and that data is not correct, means your business cannot accept it. So you will create some business exception and you can pass that message. So inside the custom exception, you can have the business exception also. So now I am having user not found exception. So step 1, create error bin. Step 2, create user not means some custom exception class you create. Okay. And then third step, what you will do, from whichever line the exception is getting thrown, right? Just handle that exception using the try catch block and throw it from there. Throw new user not found exception like this, the way I am doing. This is the third step. Okay. Then after to that, the fourth step is you should do what? You should create a exception handler package like this. That is global exception handler. Okay. That means what? See, in the user controller, this API, here if you will send a ID, this is giving you this issue. Okay, there are other API also like here patch mapping. Here also I'm sending ID, right? So if this ID also not match, the same logic here also. So there are multiple places, right? There are multiple places from where the exception can occur. So what you need to do, you cannot handle it in all the API. So you just have one class like this inside the exception handler package. This is the last step. You just have a class like this in the exception package. Annotate that class as REST controller advice. Okay, at the rate REST controller advice. So that the Spring can know whenever any exception happens, the Spring engine, the way it is calling the API also, right? Means for as per the path sent by the user, as per the path variable, as per the request body, as per the method type, it invokes the correct API, right? From the user controller. Similarly, inside your controller, if any exception, or inside the controller, inside the service, if any exception occur, okay, then you just have a single place for all the exception handling logic. This should be your answer. If the interviewer will ask you the question that how you are handling the exception, then you should say that we in our project we are having a single exception handler class, a global exception handler class. So what does the global exception handler class do? It handles all the exceptions. That should be your answer. Okay. And the how you design the global exception handler class? The global exception handler class is annotated with REST controller advice, so that Spring Engine can get to know that this is my class which need to invoke for handling all my exception. Okay. Now this global exception handler class, it is extending response entity exception handler. You are seeing this. See, this is a Spring provided class. Spring provided the response entity handler, exception handler is Spring. Sometime before our global exception handler also, we how this message is coming, right? This message is coming from here. Response entity handler means Spring is actually using this, but this is an abstract class. Okay, Spring is using some of this method. If you click any of this, right, here also some logic are there. And using this logic, Spring is handling the exception. But it is, you should tell that in the project, we are having a global exception class which extends the response entity exception handler, which is the Spring provided Spring framework provided class. Okay. Now, um, all our custom exception. This is how we user not found exception will not be present here in response entity, right? So what you will do? You will create a method here like this. Handle user not found exception. And what I did yesterday, just I clicked this method and I just took the method signature from here. Handle exception is there, right? So just I took the method signature from here. They copied here like this. And inside this, this is the logic, our logic, custom logic, the developer logic. Okay. Here what I did, just I did means all user from the service class. The service class are throwing user not found exception, right? User not found exception for if ID is not present. So that exception will be handler. It will be handled by my exception handler like this. Okay. The how the means in the API you create a class, you create your logic and how you are annotating it with the mapping, right? Patch mapping, post mapping like this. Similarly, here also inside the REST controller advice for all the mapping, okay, for all the exception mapping, you should write a exception handler for the method. Whichever method you think that this method should have the responsibility to handle the exception, just annotate it with the exception handler and pass the exception which you are supposed to handle. Okay. Now, here what I did inside this, I created a error bin. Error bin, this is our bin we have created. You know that this error bin is having three instance variable. So, my front end should always know, excuse me, don't know why this alt back is not working actually. I wanted to go back, but okay. See here the error bin. Here I'm creating a error bin. So in this error bin, what I'm trying to pass the message, because my front end should know what is the exception. So I have passed the message exception dot get message. Then from where which path called, like request dot get description, and then local date at what time the exception has occurred. Then the required like this user not found is, this is the HTTP starter, the error object, and this one I am sending. Okay. Now for all user not found, so I will just stop and start it. Start my server, and if I will just click this send button, user is not present in the database. So your front end can very well know that, okay, this is the issue. The user ID which I have passed to the service API, REST API, that is not there in the server. So this is the error which I should correct it. That is the this is the proper message we have given. Error detail also, like this is the URI and this is at this time that this time start is actually for the means for the developer, actually means this we whenever you are sending any error message, or whenever like whenever any error message, any response you are sending, right, that also getting logged in the logger. So we should know that at what time this has happened. So this is for actually developer purpose. Okay, front end has nothing to do with it, but we cannot like handle it in two ways. So every time is required for the developer, and error message and error detail, these are something which is your front end interest. Okay, and this time is your developer interest. Developer want to see the error has happened at what time. Okay, so this is for our log file, and this is for the front end. Okay, so this patch, from here also this issue happened. And for this get request, for get request, if I will send something, get also get patch, there are two API from where this kind of user not found exception has occurred. And just we kept this exception handler at one place to handle the error. Okay, from both the API. Understood? So exception handler, this is how it is used. Okay, and one more thing also I will show. Okay, here let this patch we will use. Let me give a proper error, proper path variable here. Okay. Now you see the birthday I have not given anything, right? Nothing I have passed in the birthday. So what has happened? Date time exception has happened, right? So there can be like a chance of excuse me, internal server error is coming, and there can be a chance of like sometime null pointer exception, sometime array index out of bound exception. So many things can occur. So what we will do, we'll just write a single exception handler like this. Handle any exception. Handle any exception, and I will pass what? I just pass the super class exception dot class. For any runtime exception, I will just create a super class exception dot class handle any exception. And what I will do, I'll just pass. I'll just have this only. Okay, and just stop and start. Started, server started, and let me see. So what it is saying, text could not be passed. Text, this empty text could not be passed. So front end can correct this error. Okay, like this. So that means we are sending our response in a structured format and as per the front end. Okay, 404 is not the correct one. Not found, actually, I should not have given. I should have given internal server. Okay, that should be the proper status code. So always try to send the proper status code. It should be 500, not 40. Okay. So see here. So now if any of your REST control, any of here there is one controller and some 5 API. Tomorrow I will have one more controller, or in your project, when the project you think in real time, that will be having some 50, 60 controller. Okay, in each controller there will be some 5, 10 API like that. At least 5 API. So 50 controller, 5 API means 250 API, lot of API, right? And each API will have its service, its repository. So many things are there, so many complexity are there, lot of coding, right? Any code can throw exception, right? Though you are coding judicially, a lot of care you are taking care of, lot of testing you have done, unit testing you have done, so many things you have done. But there could be a chance that any line uh, may throw exception. Means some of your code maybe with some malicious data from the user end, it may throw exception. So is it the means do we need to like handle the exception everywhere like by putting try catch block? No, you should not do that. What you should do then, you should create a error bin object. You should create the custom exception wherever it is required. Just create the custom exception. Okay, and then create a exception handler package like this. Your exception handler package, always it should extend the response entity handler, and then for all your custom exception or the exception, it is a generic class. For every all the exception, this is going to be thrown. And for the custom exception, this is how you are supposed to do. Okay. So no need to like, put try catch block everywhere and make the code, lot of, I mean, it will be messy, right? If you will put lot of try catch block everywhere for something like there is a 2, 3 catch block, that is not looking good. You should have minimum number of, there should be proper balance. Okay. Means your food also should look clean. Okay. And apart from this, this is also like a very much means essential part. Global exception handler is essential part of your code. And yeah, so this is what I was trying to say you all, that this is the exception handling approach in Spring. Any doubt till now?
Ma'am, I have a doubt.
Yes, please go ahead.
Ma'am, here only at a time only one user request get the server to get the only one user request. If there are so many requests at a time, then how our server handle this? For that, which exception we will raise?
Okay. See here, in real time, we are not going to send the application what I have done, right? This application also I can put it in some server. I can like, or my machine also could be server, or if I will open this API, means since my machine is in the open internet, if I will give my machine IP and the port detail, that like how to just you call the API and it will be called. Okay. My machine can be like, it can see whatever you are doing, you are not doing for one request, right? I'm not coding this for one request. The API which I have done, do you think that is only capable of handling one request? No. Even a small Tomcat server I am having, means when I am starting this Spring Boot server, right? One Tomcat instance is running, and my Tomcat server is capable of handling some 100 plus request or 1000 plus request. Okay, based on my Tomcat server, my machine configuration. Suppose I don't have a high end machine. But if I will suppose buy a high-end machine in cloud and I will deploy this service there, my Tomcat can be capable of handling 1000 plus requests. If more than that request I am getting, I will have multiple Tomcat instance. And all these multiple Tomcat instance, I will configure in a load balancer, right? So it will be like this. Just let me draw something for you to understand this distributed architecture. Since you people are going to work on API, since you people are going to work on microservice, you should also have the knowledge of distributed architecture. What is distributed architecture? See here. Where I will do all this. Let me open MS Word. Okay. Everything. Okay. What I will do, I just how many are I have opened so many things actually today. So here we do one. Just imagine like just insert a few boxes. Okay. See, this is one Tomcat instance, okay, running in one high-end machine, right? And similarly, I'll have some more Tomcat instance. I will have some more Tomcat instance like this, based on my application demand. If my applications, if I am expecting in 1 minute or in 1 second, suppose I am getting 1,000 requests. So my and my Tomcat, kind of configuration what I am using, I mean for this machine and the Tomcat what I am having here installed, right? All my APIs are running where? My APIs are running in Tomcat. You are clear on this, right? It is running on the Tomcat. So what I am doing here, this is one Tomcat 1, this is Tomcat 2, Tomcat 3, Tomcat 4, Tomcat 5. How many instances? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 Tomcat server, 6 machines are running. Okay, and all these 6 machines, it will be all of them, they will be configured with a load balancer. So how these load balancers are? All of them, they will configured. Okay, all of them, there will be a load balancer. Load balancer is a, that means this load balancer is exposed to outside. Okay, all the client will request to load balancer. These are client applications. We'll have some client applications, some multiple client applications. So you are in real time, there are multiple clients. There are multiple clients. All these clients, they will call this load balancer. Load balancer is it is like having the firewall, everything means it is one software which will take all these requests, all with some million of requests it will take, and then this million of requests it will distribute to all these five instances in round robin manner or whatever logic we have configured in this load balancer, right? This is your load balancer here. This is load balancer. So load balancer will have some logic for distributing this request. So suppose I have got some 5,000 requests. So 1,000 requests will go to here, 1,000 requests will go to here, like that. Mm, it will be distributed. Okay. Or if some server is already loaded, means some logic will be there inside the load balancer, which will take care of distributing the request. Now, my server, my one Tomcat instance is completely fine with like handling of 1,000 requests. So all 1,000 requests will go to one server at a time, no issue at all. Your Spring engine will take that 1,000 requests for API, and accordingly the Spring engine, we have already this front controller design pattern I have shown, right? This front controller, that PPT I should always keep open, I think. This front controller part already I have told you. Here my front controller, now it has got 1000 requests. So all the means, see, when you are giving one request means in the Tomcat server, one thread will be instantiated. In the Spring, you have already in the core Java, you have read that thread concept, right? So 1000 of thread request will, the thread object will create, and each thread will take one request, and that request it will send to your Spring Engine. Spring Engine is what? It's a class which is running inside your memory. So it will take the when the request has come to, when the request will come, it will go to the front controller. The front controller is your dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet is again, it has been instantiated by Spring Engine. Now front controller know that, like, okay, for request one slash user slash ID, that means I should call the user controller this method. So it will just invoke that method. That's all. Means 1000 time also the request has come, means 1000 time at in parallel this request will be executed. Understood? If you have given 1000 requests, now even though like say laptop is there, you suppose some 1000 client has sent request to my laptop, then the front controller will, my Tomcat server is capable of handling 1000 requests max. Okay, every Tomcat has some limit. The Tomcat and your, the machine in which the Tomcat is running, that has, that combination has some limit, isn't it? Like, for suppose you have a limit of handling, you have the limit of carrying some 50 kg load. If I will give more than 50 kg, you will not be able to handle. You will just, the person will just get tired. He will say, no, I cannot bear more than that. Similarly, if for more than 1000 requests, suppose if I am sending in this laptop, whatever configuration I am having, like I am having some means limitation of my memory, I am having some limitation of the capability, the CPU, right? So based on that, the Tomcat will have some capability to handle that request. If based on that combination, I am just saying that suppose 50 requests it is able to handle. If this same Tomcat, if I am running it in a high end machine, like some cloud compute engine I will buy, and there I will run it, then it will handle more than 50 requests. It will handle suppose some 500 or 1000 requests. So based on the configuration, machine configuration, and your Tomcat configuration. In the Tomcat also there are a lot of files you can see, so configuration files. So how many threads have been configured there? You can go and check. So based on that, your Tomcat is capable of handling that many of requests, even though the requests are parallel. Okay, so don't think that my Tomcat is only capable of handling one request at a time. No, it is not the case. Now also, if I will open my IP to everyone, you all can access the API, what I am running in my Tomcat. Okay, at least 40, 50 requests definitely it should handle as per my laptop hardware limitation. Understood? Am I have
Yes,
I
ma'am.
given answer to your question? Okay.
Yes, ma'am, I
So
got it. Ma'am, actually, I have Tomcat distributed more than one instance.
Tomcat, see, Tomcat is the, see, the what is happening. If you will request to my machine, right? My machine at the port 8080, Tomcat is running, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So the moment the request will come to Tomcat, right? Tomcat, one thread object will create. Okay. And that
Yes,
thread object will take your request body. You are sending, the client is sending, right? The client is sending few stuff. What all stuff the client is sending? The client is sending the request method, the path, the request body, all these things. also parameter, authorization header, so many things are there with the client. Client has sent some data. So the thread which is there, the Tomcat is listening means what? Whenever any request come, Tomcat will create the thread object and all the data will go inside that thread. That session will create for you. Okay. Now one session will create. And now the front controller is also running inside the Tomcat, right? This front controller is also running. So that request, that thread will do what? That thread only will do all kind of computation. User one is your thread one, your session one. Okay, session one which has been created inside your Tomcat. So that it will do what? That it will invoke the front controller which is already running in the Tomcat. So front controller will take that request and front controller has all the mapping detail like for this request. For this request, what should I call? The method. This method it will call. User controller object. It will create the user controller object and this method it will create. So what is the harm in this is which mapping? Patch mapping. Patch mapping slash user slash ID. So what it will do? It will just call this method. So it will create the user controller object dot this method. So just the front controller will initiate. It will just load this method into the memory. The update user method will be loaded. This method will be internally. This will create. Already it has this object, so it will call this method. Inside this method, all these things are happening. So this logic will get processed, and then whatever has been returned, the patch here it will be returned to here, and then it will be returned. So whatever has been returned from the resource one, the method call, that it will handle to front controller. Now front controller has the object, thread object, so that it will give it to the thread object. This thread object is nothing but the user one, the client one. For every means for Postman client, one user, one thread will create. Suppose some Python client is calling, one object will create. That means one thread object will create like that. This is what happening inside like internally. This is too internal. Okay, so just remember whatever you are doing, right? The service what you are creating, that is for parallel processing, not for single mode processing. It is not a single thread processing. It is a parallel processing. Even if I will send 1,000 requests also, my Tomcat will create 1,000 thread. And in core Java, you have read this thread is for what? Thread is for parallel processing, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Okay. Now, the next thing, okay, exception handling you have understood, right? So whenever you need to handle the exception, these are the four thing you need to do. One thing, error bin you need to create. Second thing, uh, you create means if the exception you are thinking that it should be a custom defined exception, means custom exception, you can translate that exception to custom exception like this, and then from wherever the exception should be thrown, just throw like this, the way I have done right here. Just throw like this in the here, the way it has been thrown from here, right? So so the bottom line here is that like you should have minimum number of try catch. Everywhere in the controller, you should not have the try catch. The controller should be very clean. Okay. Inside the service class, have some try catch block there and throw the exception from there and have a global exception handler like this, which should be annotated as REST controller by, and it should extend the response entity exception handler. Okay, and just create the required method which should handle your exception like this, the way I have done, and create a response entity object like this. Response entity also was taught in 2 days back class, I think. So response entity is what you can customize your, means response entity is a class. Response entity is a class where you can put your status. Means you can have your own status also. Sometimes either you put HTTP status as per your required choice, as per your choice, means the way here it has been given, you can take it anything from here, or sometimes you can have your custom code also. Like when suppose you are saying to your content that see 100 I am going to send for this, like that also you can send. Also, and then you can have some custom header also you can give here. Header. Suppose I will create my own header. See here in the Postman you can see the response header here, header. These are the default header. Every response will have content type, transfer encoding, date, keep alive. All these are default header. But if you want some ABC header, something you want to send in ABC, you can send. Yes, no, something you can send there, custom header. Then in the response body, this is your body. This is your body. So in the response body, if you want to send anything, body, whatever you want to send, you can send here. I am sending here, I am sending error object. See, here I have sent the error object. I have just sent the status code. That's what I created like this. If I would have, if I would need to send some header, then I would have created it in this way. Okay, like this also you can create the response entity object. So response entity object is what? It is just to have some more control on your response. Okay, so this is how you should do a global exception handler. Okay, apart from this, okay, sometime what happened, just to like user they send some data, like for example the post API. Let me go to post API. Here I am having a body. Sometimes user will send no name, nothing, birthday, nothing, like this, and they can send. Let's see. See, null user with empty also got created. So do you think this is the right way when your database is going to keep all kind of if I will just call the get method, and here see this has been created. So do you think this is the right set of data? No. So sometimes some junk data also gets created. And do you know means what happened nowadays? Like just to make your database feel, people they are just means your rival they may create some wrong data, means some junk data they will create just to load your database. They may use some robot malas, means suppose Apple company, okay, since their product is widely used at global level, okay, they have their competitors, right? Samsung or some XYZ company, they will just think that how we can impact their business. So they will just have some robot, and they will place some robot, and just they will create some junk data. They will make their database down by sending junk data, something like that. They may do it. Okay. So this kind of junk data we should not allow. Okay. Or suppose in the birth date, I will just send like this. See, this kind of definitely I got a exception here because the Jackson could not handle it. But junk data should not be, suppose, let me just do one thing. This is one example I have given, I have given this example. This kind of data is getting created. Empty name and empty birthday. The data is getting created. Suppose here, suppose name I have given you, date I have given 2018. Some birthday in the future, is it possible? Fail to read request. Have I put something there or what? Could not have come
Arif,
actually.
And for last comma to remove the comma.
Oh, okay. Postman is giving this. No, no. Server only giving this. This comma, it could not. Since the jack, this entire thing, it took it as a body, and since it did not find the JSON as a valid object, that's why it said that response. So correct. So this, if I will just click send, see the future date also getting created, which is not possible. So what we will do, we should validate when we are sending this data, right? We should validate actually. So our server should validate this. How it will validate? Should I put all the validation logic here in the user? For all these fields, should I put the validation? So no need to do so many coding. Very easily it can be achieved. Okay, it is very easily achievable. How? First step is what you need to do. So one concept we have already covered, that is global exception handler. Okay, the exception handler. The second concept is about the validation. Okay, so in step one, what you should do, you just add this dependence. Okay, just putting it over chat. Just add this dependency in your form.xml. Okay, now what you are supposed to do after adding this dependency, go to the user class, then just add size like this, and your minimum, if you go to the size, right, the size is from, this size is a annotation, and this annotation class we are getting it, this class we are getting it from the Jakarta validation. Okay, this we are getting from the Jakarta validation, the dependency which we added here, right? SpringBoot starter validation, from there, from this dependency only we got this Jakarta validation. And just for this name, just put size. See, if you go to size, you see min, max, there are few in this annotation, you see few methods are there, min, max, like this. So what you are going to do, see, I want size, mean I want minimum of 2 characters. My name should have minimum of 2 character or 3 character. And if it is not, if I'm not getting this many characters, then I should give a message to the front end saying that name should be minimum 3 characters. Minimum 3 characters. Okay. And similarly, your birthday cannot be a past date. Cannot be future date. It should be always past date. Okay. And birthday also should, you should have some format also for birthday. JSON format, something is there. So format, yes, JSON format. You want your birthday to be like this. Here, 1 day. BT. Thank you. The format we will add later. First, let me show you for past date. Okay. Now, size and past. These two validation I have added. So step one, what I did, I added the Jakarta validation. Step two, what I did in the user bean, on whichever field I supposed to add the validation, just here I want to add the validation for size. So I have put like this. And also I should say that my it should be not null. It cannot be null, not null. Okay, similarly date also cannot be null. So not null. These are the validation I added here. Okay, I added, and I should pass some message also. Message I can give to front end that if they are sending wrong data, then they should have got this, they should get this message. Date cannot be, day can, birthday cannot be picture two. Okay, so this two validation I have added. So this is the step two. And then in the global exception handler, what you are supposed to do for the validation, since we have just this exception handler, okay, if user not found exception, then this method will be immediately called and this response entity will send. If any exception is occurring, then this method will be called. But if wrong data, if user is sending this kind of wrong data, right? If user will send wrong data like 2080 or something like this, okay, this is not let me just stop it and start it. Since the validation I have already added, okay, so okay, one more thing I should do. This is the first step is what? First step, you need to add the Jacker Spring Boot starter validation. Second step, you need to do what? Whichever field you want to validate, just put the proper validation there. Put the proper validation there. Okay, in the bin. Third step is what? Third step is in the user controller, the post mapping. In the post mapping, I should this request body, my user object, what I am receiving, right? It should be a valid one. So I should add this valid validation at the rate validation. Previously, it was like this. Previously, it was just like this. Okay. Now, what I need to do, I need to put valid also here. This valid has come from where? This valid is from Jakarta validation. So your user, your Spring framework now knows that I should, if there is an annotation, if request body is annotated with at the rate validation, then what it will do? Immediately all the validation will be in place. And if this validation is occurring, means if it is getting validated correctly, then only it will form the request body and the method will be invoked. Otherwise, what it will do? In the global exception handler, if you go to the response entity handler, since it is the super class here, here you can see one method, argument. This one will be called method argument. Method argument. Method argument not valid exception. This one will be called. Just I am doing what? I'll just click here the debug button and the breakpoint and I'll start the server. See here, now I have done all the things like pom.xml validation in dependencies there. After adding that dependency, I could add the validation on the different field, at the different field, and the user controller I put at the rate valid. Now what I will do, I will just call this send button. See here, the breakpoint where I have kept, right? Okay, here also one breakpoint I have kept. The method argument not valid. See, this method is called, right? Handle method argument not valid. This method got called. Are you all able to see this? This is getting called now. If I will go internally, see handle. So some means internally it is creating some logic, right? Internally some default logic, the Spring framework logic is getting executed. So with this, from this internal logic, what I got? Invalid request content, bad request, like this I got. But I want this message. Whatever I have put inside this user, right? I want this message. So what I should do? Birthday cannot be future date. So what I should do? What I will do? I have already actually kept it here. So this method I will just override. Okay, I will override this method. Just wait for 5 minutes more and just conclude this. So inside this response handler, here I have kept your breakpoint here. In method argument, handle method argument. This is a protected method inside this class, right? This method is getting executed and sending this kind of response. I don't want this kind of response. I want the message which I have put here in my user bin. So I want so that it will be more meaningful to the front end. So what I am going to do, simply I will just go here, this global exception handler. Since this is a super class, I don't want the super class method. What I will do, I'll just override the method what I have written here. Okay, and now I'll just stop the server and I will start it. Okay, now I will see what is going to happen. Let me just hit send, and here see what it is saying. Validation failed. Validation failed. Birthday cannot be future date. This message we got, right? So this is how actually we should validate a object, a bean. Okay, using the Spring Boot starter validation. I'll share this code with you all. Okay, just take a look, and wherever you are just getting doubt, you just let me know. Okay, so till now, what all thing we have covered? We have covered API of all method, means API for all the request method. Then how to handle the exception of a API. Then how to validate a bean. These three concepts we have covered till now. Okay. So tomorrow onwards, how to connect to database, those part we will discuss. Okay, thank you everyone. Any doubt?
Thank you.
If you have, just let me know. Okay, you can ping me and discuss also. Thank you. Bye.